put on the rubber gloves.
I think we did.
Breakfast.
Hey boy, hey girl, superstar DJ, here we go.
With Jay and the Doctor.
Is Bernie on yet? I've got to...
Something that our next guest may or may not be that familiar with.
Hey.
Mr. Neil Hamburger. How you going? America's funny man. Comedian to the stars. How you going?
Good. It's good to see you guys again. Last time I saw you, you were homeless winos, and now you got a radio show. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you. It's good to see you too, Neil. Now, we've been following your career for a long time now.
Decades.
Yep. Tell us what's happened. I think it must have been a low point. One of your releases, Left for Dead in Malaysia. It must have been a low point when you were doing a show, and not only could the audience, not really, they weren't really getting your jokes. They really couldn't understand English at all.
Yeah.
How is it doing those sorts of shows?
Well, that wasn't an ideal show. I have no idea why the record company chose to release that. It did not put me in a good light, shall we say, and in fact, the record was a failure.
Since then, how's it been going?
Well, it's gotten worse. I mean, it's progress. Things get worse.
Because on that record, I believe your wife, you were talking about how your wife left you and actually left with your manager.
With the manager, with the dentist, with pretty much everyone, probably at least one of you guys at some point. But you got to move forward. We're doing more shows to try to help pay off the money that I owe her. So
that's good.
In about 7 or 8 years, we'll be halfway there.
Good. And where are you doing these shows? Because I know you've performed at several Greyhound tracks. I remember you did a show at the National Parks headquarters.
All the hot spots. We're doing one at the local tip here at 1:00. If anyone wants to come on down, that's a free show, I believe. And then we got one tomorrow night in Katoomba. If you've ever been up there.
And what sort of things? Do you alter your material when you're doing a show at the tip at the local refuse station?
Well, you try to get your best material out for a show like that because that's a prestigious sort of venue where lots of different people are coming and going. That's going to be a big crowd.
Right. And what sort of material do you pull out for that?
Oh, some of the stuff that really matches the atmosphere, such as, for instance, why did Madonna feed her infant baby dog food?
I don't know.
Well, she had no choice. That's just what came out of her breasts.
Neil Hamburger on Triple J.
Neil Hamburger, America's funny man. You're
a little tired, a little emotional.
Well, always a little emotional, when your life is on the skids, it does tend to keep you permanently choked up.
You seem to have made it somewhat of a comeback in the last few years. The DVD that you put out in the Phoenix Greyhound track.
Yeah, with the dogs.
Yes. It seemed to go all right. I mean, it seemed okay.
Well, you kind of get upstaged by some of those dogs, and that sort of can hurt the career, but we did the best we could. At least the discs weren't defective like my previous album.
And I've also heard that at your shows they've been turning up celebrities left, right, and centre. You've become a bit of a...
Oh, yeah. Well, because it makes them feel better about themselves,
Oh, do you think that partly they come to see if they're sort of within your material, if they made it into the Neil Hamburger...
If I see them there, I try not to do the material because of the gun laws in America. These guys are often packing heat, and it can get pretty ugly when you start talking about their venereal diseases while they're in the audience,
Yeah. Well, who are some of the celebrities that come to your shows?
Well, none of these had venereal diseases, but recently we had none other than Mr. Danny DeVito in the crowd. And we've had Oscar winner Jennifer Connelly, remember her breasts, and... some of the other top stars. Remember Queens of the Stone Age, who had some of those bad songs? They were there. And John Cusack, the actor, whose career is on the decline due to a series of poor choices. And Jack Black, of course, comes out and put me in his new film.
This is right. This is the movie on the life of Tenacious D.
Yeah.
Where does Neil Hamburger feature in the life of Tenacious?
Well, it was hard. It was hard to work me in, but they did have a scene, an open mic scene, and who else would be on the bill opening at an open mic? But of course, Neil Hamburger. So at first, I thought they were going to cast me as Abraham Lincoln. When I got the call, and then I found out, no, you're playing yourself. That's all we think you can do.
Where does Abraham Lincoln fit either in Neil Hamburger's life or in Tenacious D's career?
Well, I think he works his way into everything, really.
He does indeed. And Neil Hamburger, well, I was at a show that you played last night, and you seem to open up for a lot of bands like the Hard-Ons and Mr. Bungle. How do you sort of slide your way into this sort of rock and roll community?
Well, you tell me. I mean, I believe that what it is a lot of these bands, these young bands, can't actually play their instruments, and they have studio musicians that make the records. And so the audience that comes out to see them is very upset when they see the low quality of the show. And so having someone like me to take the heat off of them by, they throw all the eggs at me, and by the time that the band gets up and does their bad set, everyone's exhausted.
Well, it's just good thinking. It just makes good sense.
It really does just make good fiscal sense. Neil Hamburger, you're playing in Katoomba tomorrow night.
The Guerin Hotel.
Right.
And we had one in Wollongong tonight, but it got canceled due to a food poisoning scare, so that's off. If you are in that area, please do something else tonight.
Right, I'm sure.
And then, of course, in Sydney, Newtown RSL, big show, big series of shows, Saturday and Sunday night. So bring the dog and come on out.
Neil Hamburger on Triple J, America's Funny Man.
Hey, Neil, here's the Foo Fighters.
Oh, could you not?
off their new record. You heard anything about these guys?
Well, they have a new double CD, and where I come from, Hollywood, California, apparently the day that this thing came out, there were lines of people lining up to buy this set, and then they set up a big garbage bin along the side of the building, and people were throwing the second disc into it as they left the car parking lot.
Neil Hamburger on Triple J.
Triple J.